ridiculous fondling cardboard.
Jason, welcome back to the show. How have you been since we talked last?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mike. Been good. Very busy here at the golf course, and of course opening up the shop as well. Been a busy into the summer and early fall, but it's all good.
Very good. And the vision of your golf shop, is it coming together? How's it evolved since we last talked?
Yeah, so it is. It's I didn't know what to expect. So most businesses, you open them and you kind of have something you can measure it against. This, I don't think another one exists. Not that I can find, as I think we talked about in the first episode. So I really don't have anything to measure it against other than just conversations with people. So it's been good. It's been challenging. We had a couple of key people out here at the golf course for significant amounts of time the last 3 months. One in particular due to a major health issue. And so that meant my role at the golf course and all the golf course operations almost doubled. And that was, so I was here a lot, which was helpful. I was here basically 7 days a week, all day, except for church on Sunday morning. But so it gave me some downtime. It gave me some time to be here and present to set the shop up, but didn't give me a whole lot of time leading up to it to do some of the things that I wanted to do to market it ahead of time. But I've been very pleased. It's I've had a lot more online Instagram, private messages, DMs, things like that. I've had a lot more of that than I anticipated. I never really embarked on actually doing any of that. Just the social media presence was more just to let people know that it was there and get the word out that way. Whereas the majority of my sales have actually come from that. People messaging me and saying, "Hey, I'd like to see the cards you have of this player," or "Hey, show me the pin flags you have of that player," and just messaging them back and working out a deal. And much better to sell it that way than it is on eBay and paying eBay fees. Kind of like with the Facebook group, you avoid the fees and you still get the network and still get the sales. And so it's been great. I haven't had as much foot traffic as I thought. Who knows whether my thoughts were wrong or not, because nobody had ever done this before. And so it's been good.
Unexpected issues with some of your employees, that would definitely be a challenge. Have there been any other challenges with the shop itself other than, your time being pulled in different directions?
None that I can speak of. I mean, none that I'm aware of. I mean, getting the word out has not necessarily happened here locally. Not like another business where you hang a sign on the front that tells people driving by what you got there. And so I think it's just going to be that challenge, if you want to call it that. I think it will resolve itself when I have more time to just be present and in the shop and not necessarily working on golf course operations, to where I can engage people, when they walk in and they're like, "Hey, this is cool. What's this? This space used to look terrible. What's going on now in the space?" When I can engage them in a conversation about what it is and the opportunity they have to collect their favorite player, collect, golf memorabilia from a favorite tournament or something like that. To me, that's gonna resolve itself, as opposed to me being in the grill or or working behind the pro shop counter, and I see people walk in, but all I can really do is just kind of acknowledge them and say, "Hey, I'm here. Let me know if you need anything or if you have any questions." But then I've got to get back to checking in people for the driving range or for their tee times. I'm not really able to engage them in conversation.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely I can relate, and I'm just thinking about organizing my cards and working on the projects that I would like to do. So I couldn't imagine trying to do it as a business at the same time as running another business. Um, I'm going to jump back to the online stuff you were talking about, because I find that interesting, and maybe you understand why I was asking, would you be doing any group breaking or, that kind of stuff? Because it's a digital world that we live in. And with such a niche hobby, it's difficult to connect with local people. Of course, there are local people who enjoy the sport and collecting cards, but
Sure.
online you can connect the dots so easily.
Can, yeah.
And it's actually interesting if you look at a giant store by Jeff Wilson, Cards HQ, they're trying to implement like online shopping. So they'll literally have an employee walking through the
Mm.
aisles of their shop, video, chatting with somebody, pick out cards and sell them to them. And then after the transaction, they'll ship it out to them. Has that been a bit of a surprise to you? And anything else we can dig into that topic?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I don't right now plan on doing any type of live breaks. I'm not against it. It's just that it's not something I've never really enjoyed necessarily being involved in them as a consumer. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I would enjoy them as the shop owner. But also just, for me, part of the most fun of this is bringing my hobby into my everyday workspace and engaging with those customers. It's great to make a sale online and you're chatting with people and you're messaging them and you're showing them. I sent a guy this morning a couple of master's badges. He wanted to see front and back pictures, and nothing wrong with that. And he's very cordial online, but it's not the same as somebody walking in the shop and you get to know them, you get to talk to them. I'm a people person. I like that one-on-one in front of people interaction. And but locally, some of the things that I want to do, some of the ideas or brainstorm ideas that I have. I mean, obviously, I have a captive audience of, 7, 8, 900, maybe 1,000 people a day that stroll through here to play golf or do the driving range or eat food in the grill. And so I think there's a captive audience there that I can tap into. Again, just a matter of time and getting the word out. And but I do plan on trying to see. We got a couple of 3 really good local card shops here in the area that like a typical card shop, baseball, football, basketball, Pokemon, all that kind of stuff. And just trying to engage them to try to see would they be interested in participating if I did a card show out in some open area we have. Obviously we need a good weather day and we need a rain date, but put up some tents and advertise it and have a card show, and even collectors could come. It doesn't have to be just myself and local card shops, because that'll help me network with them. I mean, for people that have followed me on Instagram, and I'll give it now, and I probably give it again before it's over, but _ KP golf cards. If you follow me there, if you haven't, please do. You'll see 5. I have a lot of goals, but my 5 stated goals that are plastered everywhere. They're plastered even here in the shop. They're on Instagram, but one of them is networking with local card shops. And so it just creates an opportunity for me to find ways to help them and find ways for them to help me. But then also, if we get some local collectors that come to that, maybe somebody comes with a box of baseball cards, but then they love golf and they're introduced to golf cards. And so some ideas around that. I've also got some ideas maybe as next, like the full-fledged golf season starts. Maybe I could run some 10% off, card specials if for a player that wins. So if Scotty Scheffler, wins in March and you've always been eyeing his SI rookie card, well, then don't buy it this week. Wait till next week. Maybe he'll win and you get 10% off. But again, something to try to, maybe just drum up a little interest as people are watching the final round in the grill. Just things like that. But one quick thing I'll say about the online stuff and how it's been surprising. And I don't understand necessarily how these work and how all the algorithms work. I'm not a very technologically savvy person, but my daughter has a TikTok account. Very few followers. I think she has like 20, because they just do fun TikTok videos, whatever kids do on TikTok. And randomly, the second day we were open on that Sunday, she posted a TikTok video of me making my first sale. And I don't even remember what we did. It was like 20 seconds long, where she said, Dad, say something about your new business. And I did. And then she posted it on her TikTok and said, hey, it's my dad's new business. It's always been a dream of his. Please give him a follow on his Instagram and support his local business. In like 72 hours, that thing had over 100,000 views. Again,
Wow.
have no idea how that happened, but people were walking into Knights Play Golf Center here to play golf. And like I remember a kid that was like, "Oh my gosh, I saw this. Is this the thing that was on TikTok?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually it was." And and so we posted one a few days later that only got 500 views. How, I don't know. All that stuff happens. But anyway, from that random TikTok video she did, um I got about 200 more Instagram followers and made 15 to 20 sales over the course of that next week, just from a one-off, hey dad, do a 20 or 30 second video. And so that was pretty cool. And it was fun. You could literally look at my Instagram and the follower number was ticking up like almost live every time I refreshed the screen. So pretty cool. But so definitely has made me more open to that kind of thing, doing more TikTok videos, doing more things on Instagram. But I still never want to lose that desire to have that local network, the people that walk in the shop that have that. I walk into my local card shop and, my buddy Adam there that owns it knows me by name. Hey, how's the kids? How's your wife doing? The kids back in school? Hey, here's this stack of Ricky Henderson cards. I've been setting them aside for the next time I saw you. I never want to lose that. I want to capture that at some point with a community here and keep that, because to me that's the most fun part of it.
The digital world is interesting, but the in-person part of the hobby is it's difficult to replace, especially in your situation being a brick and mortar shop with so much foot traffic right outside of the door, golf players. You definitely want to lean into that side of it. TikTok, I have no idea what goes into virality and why something like that goes off, but obviously it was a very meaningful moment for you and your daughter, and
Hmm?
some authentic aspect of that just resonated and blew up online. So that's super
It
cool, man.
Yeah, it did, and totally unscripted and unplanned. So it was great. And I've tried to my daughter's almost 20. I have twins, and this particular one that was with me, I've told her I owed her some commission from all those sales, but she's living rent free at home, so she declined. She said no, thank you.
Smart girl. So in terms of in-person business development, let's say, I imagine if you have 1,000 golfers walking past your shop every day, Um, I imagine a lot of them are pretty busy, whether they're going to play around at your par three course or if they're going to get in some, serious practice. It
Mhm.
might be tricky to get their attention. Has that been the case?
I haven't noticed it. It's been very well received when people see it, especially when I'm in the space. And again, it's about a maybe 200 square foot tunnel is the best way to describe the space. If you haven't seen the pictures, again, you can go to that Instagram and follow me, and you can see them. But if I'm in the space and people engage with me, it's been very well received. Like, man, this is really cool. This is awesome. I remember what this space used to look like, but I'd have to say, and this might be a low estimate, that 90 to 95% of the response has been, I didn't even know this stuff existed. Like 100% of the response has been, this is really cool. This area looks awesome. Oh, wow. All this kind of stuff. And some people, oh, wow, when they see how much some of the stuff is worth. But we've got things in there that are a few $1,000s. We've got things in there that are 50 cents, so there's something for everybody. But a very, very, very high percentage, 90 to 95% is probably a low estimate, did not even have a clue that, wait, Tiger Woods has golf cards. Oh my goodness, Tiger Woods has bobbleheads. Oh wait, Xander Schauffele's got, card, just go down the list of so again, it's I want to say it's an uphill challenge, but it's not really, because I think most people, when they find out that stuff exists, it's not really uphill, because especially if I'm in the space and engaging them in conversation, a typical question I'll ask them is, hey, who's your favorite couple or three golfers? If you had to name them, who's your favorite two? If you were going to collect anything from a golfer, who would it be? And then of course, if they say Scotty Scheffler, there's not a ton of options. If they're like, well, I love Tiger Woods stuff, tons of options. You know, I've sold things, the sales that I've had in person have been from me engaging people. Hey, who's your favorite golfer? Or in one particular case, probably my favorite sale I've had. And it's one of my things I hope I get to repeat as we, for those that celebrate Christmas, coming up on Christmas season, and, you know, gift buying season. And, but I had a guy in the shop maybe a couple weeks ago, a young guy, college age, maybe just out of college. And oh, this is really cool, man. I didn't know this stuff existed. Hey, who's your favorite golfer? He said, mine and my dad's favorite golfer both is Bryson DeChambeau, hands down favorite golfer. So I just said, hey, is your dad hard to buy for Christmas? He's like, impossible. He has everything. There's nothing, you know. I said, do you think your dad might like some Bryson stuff? If so, I've got some. And he said, yeah, what do you have? And hey, give me, what do you normally spend on dad? He's 100, 150 bucks. So he walked out with a signed Bryson flag, with JSA authentication, and told him how he could get it framed up for 10 or 15 bucks, or just give it to his dad, not framed. And so his dad's Christmas presents covered. And he's like, this is going to be the best present I've ever given dad. And so I hope to do some more of that. That was really fun for me. I've had a few more sales like that online where people have engaged me and given me kind of a budget. Hey, here's some people I need to shop for. I had a guy in there this week that, you know, he's got 3 brothers, and the whole family, their favorite golfers are Jack and Arnold. And so he's like, hey, I don't have time right now. You mentioned time a little bit ago, but he said, hey, when I've got time, I'm probably going to come back and shop for all 3 of my brothers in the shop here. It looks like you got a lot of Jack and Arnold items. I was like, yep, be happy to help you. Give me a budget ahead of time, what you want to spend. I'll have some items set out for you. And so I think that'll help, you know, help grow the in-person stuff as well. But those have been kind of my favorite, most fun sales. And yes, people are busy, but sometimes we're able to at least start that conversation, finish it at a later date when the round's over or another day.
Very cool. Very cool. I really like that story of the son getting the signed Bryson DeChambeau flag, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, have you been conducting any research or received feedback from customers on what they want to see? And you hit on something that I don't know why I wasn't really thinking about it, but if somebody's not a member of the golf collecting community already, that's the easiest way to get their foot in the door, is to say, who's your favorite golfer? And then show them options. Well,
Yeah.
in the world of collecting, whether it's cards, flags, whatever, bobbleheads, this is the kind of stuff you can get for that player.
Right.
Have you received any other feedback, I guess, on what kinds of items people are looking for? And like, what do you think would appeal to both card collectors and just golfers?
Yeah, so I think I'd answer that a couple of different ways, because I'm encountering such a high percent of people that don't collect, that just quote unquote think this stuff is cool. That's not the type of person in all likelihood that's gonna go after, you know, they've not been going after the mid-range stuff, is maybe a good way to put it. If there's somebody that maybe has unlimited funds, then maybe their first entry point might be a $500 item. But for most of those people, you know, it's going to be more the 50 cent, the dollar, the $5. You know, I had a sale to a guy. So he bought a box of something. He lives in South Carolina, but found out he was new to collecting. Like, this was going to be the first packs of golf cards he'd ever opened. And so I stuffed in the box, you know, a set of Tiger Tails cards. And you'd have thought I gave the guy $1 million, you know, because he just thought, man, this is so cool. I have a Tiger Woods subset, you know. And I had told him, I said, hey, I put something extra in there. It's not overly valuable. I just think you'll find it really cool as a new collector. And he did. And of course, it's only been a month, but I think the main answer to your question is, people seem to be more interested, at least initially, in the cheap stuff, the 50 cent, dollar, $2 stuff, because if they're new to collecting, they can get more bang for their buck, or they're more interested, whether it's new or whether it is somebody that's into collecting, they're more interested in autograph stuff, whether that's autograph ball, autograph flag, or the auto cards. I don't think I've sold more than one serial numbered card that didn't have an auto on it to this point. And that was Sahith, the Gala collector, that I bought about 9 or 10 Sahith cards. And so he said, "Hey, show me every Sahith you have." And I sent him an image of those, and he just went through and picked off some that he didn't have in his personal collection. So I really think I need to, from an inventory standpoint, I need to probably get more auto cards, whether it be on card, facsimile auto. There hasn't really seemed to be a breaking point one way or the other on, whether it's a card that's signed by somebody at a tournament that's authenticated, or whether it's just pulled straight from the pack. So I probably need to beef up the inventory on the auto cards, and I probably need to beef up the inventory on the 50-cent cards for more players. I have a lot of 50-cent cards, but it's very, very deep in Tiger and Jack, and not very deep in your Collins, Brysons, your Tony Finauls, guys like that, so that I have more 50-cent options for the new collector that maybe Tony Finau is their favorite golfer.
In niche categories like golf and other collectors that I've talked to about this subject, part of niche communities like wrestling or tennis, etc., is that collectors often gravitate towards the more what I call primitive types of cards. If you have to explain why a card is desirable or rare, then in these niche communities, other than the people who are extremely deep, they tend towards autographs, memorabilia, or cards that just make your eyes go wow when you see it. So I think that you have probably stocked up on just some serial numbered cards, rare cards that somebody walking off the street might not recognize the value right away. What have you kind of learned, I guess, from that experience, other than the obvious, I find it fascinating that you said the penny cards or the dollar cards, $5 cards versus the high end. This makes a lot of sense. But aside from just saying, oh, I'm going to buy a bunch of dollar cards and a few $500 items so I can kind of match supply with demand, what have you learned from that?
I think I'm just learning. I think it's more of a present tense than a past tense, maybe. Just learning that the people are breaking into two categories. They're either the golf card collector, like you and I and most of the people listening to this. And if you're a golf card collector, and because there are so few golf cards that we can collect each year, more so this year than other years, thankfully we've got some great products out there. But if you're a golf card collector and you have been for a while, it's going to be very hard for me to have something that the potential buyer doesn't already have, unless it is a serial numbered, lower serial numbered, or auto. Like, who listening to this podcast or on your Facebook group doesn't have, if they're a Tiger Woods fan, they probably have most Tiger Woods cards. So I better have something that they don't have in their collection. For example, I've got a Tiger Wood, Upper Deck employee exclusive, serial numbered auto red memorabilia card that I've only seen one comp ever on it, and it was Golden Auctions, and it was 3,300, I think it was, and I have that card. It's for sale. I don't have that one. I have a version of that card. The auto's in a PSA 10 grade. The card is a PSA 6. But it's priced at $2,950. That's a card that a Tiger superfan collector probably doesn't have in their collection. But that might be the only Tiger card I have that a Tiger superfan doesn't have. And so if you're not a collector, you're probably not going to drop that much. You're probably going to gravitate more to, I can get this big stack of cards at 50 cents a card, $1, $5. Oh, there's that nice shiny one And this guy, Jason, that owns this shop, explained to me what that serial number stamp means. And there's only 499 of them. So sure, I'll pay up and get that one for 10 or 15 bucks. Or if you spend 20 or 30 and you're a new collector, I might give you some 50-cent Tiger cards just to, help you get started. So I think it's more of a learning process as opposed to what I've learned, that I opened the shop with a whole lot of that mid-range, like $5 to $100 card price point. I think I need more of the under fives and the over hundreds, honestly. Because a lot of those people that I've sent Tiger to, or Jack to, or Sahith, or Justin Thomas, go down the list of the guys we collect. I've had a lot more people come back and say, hey, thanks, I've already got all those, than I have, hey, I'll take the one on the top left, give me 2 of the ones on the bottom right, that type of thing. I've had enough of those that the first month has been profitable, but there's been a lot more, I've got all those cards, as opposed to me having something that they don't. One of the challenges then is, okay, now how do I acquire those cards at a price point that I can resell them? How do I go get that? I had a guy that sent me some Upper Deck Goodwin champs from 21, 22, 23-ish era, all Tiger Woods, all slabbed, and all in the splash of color insert set, and pretty much all of them serial numbered, and all of them below serial number 500. They range from, I think there was a serial number 49, a 75, a 99. So a lot of the ones I'm saying that I want more of, but he was only willing to let them go for about 90 to 95% of the comp on them. And I just said, I can't do that, because if I pay you, $50 for a card and slap 55 on it, that's not worth my time and effort. And I can't put 60 or 70 on it, because the person that's going to come in the shop, they're going to look at eBay and see that they can get it for 55.
Yeah,
or 50
exactly.
plus $5 shipping. And so it was a polite, cordial back and forth message, but I just said, I can't pay you that. If you ever decide to come down on them, like, this is exactly what I'm saying that I need. And I would be very interested in these cards, because they're hitting some of that, I might have some cards that a Tiger fan doesn't have, type thing. So I think I'm just learning as I go here. If you were think of any other business, anybody that's listening to this, any other business that you would think of opening in your area, there's probably a good number of people you could go talk to before you open it. And you could say, hey, when you opened your business, what did you do? Because I'm trying to be your competitor. And if they're a good, morals person that wants to help people out, which you like to think most people are, they might not tell you their secret sauce, but they'd at least give you some good ideas. I don't have that here. There's nobody I can talk to say, hey, what's it like to open a local golf cart shop?
That's really interesting, because we have I wouldn't say a sizable community, but we've got a well-networked community of tens, hundreds, I might even say thousands of people who really enjoy this strange little hobby of collecting golf memorabilia and cards. So you've got a lot of people to get advice from, but you're right, nobody's done the exact thing you're doing. So you might get bits of advice here and there, but you need to take them with a grain of salt, because what works for somebody might just be a collector's lane as opposed to you running a business. Although collectors, of course, my friend Paul Hickey, sports card investor type guy, he always points at me and other collectors like me saying, you guys are the ones who can get the best value for cards, because you know so much about the cards and you're well networked, and you can really understand a good deal when you see one. Of course, what he doesn't recognize is it's easy to also fall in love with cards and overspend when you just really, really want something and you can't think objectively about it. But when you talked about getting a bunch of lower end cards, my first thought was, in our Facebook group, you could post saying exactly what you want. Hey, I'm looking for these select few players or a dozen different players, and I'm looking to buy a lot of cards. When I say a lot, I don't mean many cards. I mean batches of cards.
Yep.
And say, I would like to pick up between 20 to 100 cards. I'm looking to spend in the range of $20 to $40. Even if you had a couple dozen responses, you might only get one that really works out. But that's kind of the way this game works. And the other aspect would be, of course, searching through eBay. You
Sure.
could do some things like Tiger Woods card lot or Tiger Woods lot, and then under the filters category sports trading cards. And then that way, every day, pull up the eBay and you scan your saved searches, and you could see all of the Tiger Woods cards that are sold as
Hmm.
lots on eBay. These are the kind of things that I think shop owners do to try and re-inventory. And it's great that you're starting to kind of narrow in on what kinds of cards you want. For the higher end cards, it's trickier because if you're
It
looking in the
is.
500 to a couple $1,000 range, people don't want to sell well below comps. If you buy a card even close to comps, you're going to have to mark it up above comps. Some brick and mortar stores actually do that, and they can get away with it because where else are you going to get the card? Yeah, like you said, a card enthusiast would go on eBay and they can see they can just buy it and have it shipped right to their house. But if it's just a golf fan, they aren't as privy. They're not as smart
Mm.
about surfing eBay and they might not trust it, spending $500 or a couple $1,000 on some online platform. Not that I'm advocating for marking things up in store, but it's not unheard of.
I'm a very detail organized person. I'm a little bit OCD. People that know me know that. But I do have on my list of, I mean, I just retired 25 years of insurance sales. So, and I was never a good salesperson. I was just extraordinarily organized. So I didn't miss anything, but I would always keep like a weekly or monthly, checklist of things on the list. And I do plan to, over the next 60 days before the end of the year, to reach out to the Facebook group and just, hey, who's got some 21, 24, upper deck cards that they've got a stack of Finau or a stack of Justin Thomas that they would love to unload at a really cheap price, just to try to fill some of those, because I opened with possibly enough of those, but a lot of those have sold, even to those new collectors that I've reached out to online. So yeah.
You mentioned Tony Finau a few times. I'm an Arizona Coyotes hockey fan, so I'm devastated this year as the Coyotes have shifted over to Salt Lake City and they're now called
Yeah.
the Utah Hockey Club. Out there, Tony Finau is huge. That's where he's from. So I was a little surprised you've mentioned his name a few times. Is he a popular player out there?
I don't know that Tony is necessarily like overly popular here. But he's in the golf community, as you know, very popular. I have sold a good number of Tony Finau cards. It's probably been, no shocker, probably the number one seller has been Tiger Woods from a name standpoint. That should not come as a surprise. Probably followed by Bryson DeChambeau and Tony Finau were 2 and 3 in some order. I'm not sure who's in the lead for second, but they're by far second and third above, whoever will be fourth, fifth, or sixth.
I'm surprised, I would have thought maybe Colin Morikawa or some of these other big names would be popular. Do you think that has to do with the actual preferences of your customers, or do you think it might actually be a reflection of your inventory and what kind of cards you just happen to have on display?
I don't, because if you saw my showcase and saw every card in there, I meticulously went through with stacks of when I was deciding what to put in the showcase and what to put in like the 50 cent, dollar, $2, $5 and up bins that people can sort through. Um, Before I ever put a card in the showcase, I made stacks of players, and I made sure for everybody that I had represented, and I shouldn't say everybody, for everybody that people would collect, or potentially want to see their cards. Um, I made sure that they got at least one card in the showcase. And when I've sold that card, I've replaced it with another one. For example, I had one Tony Finau in the showcase. It was a $30 a $30 serial number one, a pretty high serial number one, that I picked it up for $20. It comped for 30, so I put $30 on it. As soon as that Tony Finau sold, it was sold to somebody that messaged me online. As soon as that sold, I immediately went to the $5 and up bin and pulled out another Tony Finau card to put right back in its place, because I knew that was the only Finau that I had in there. I did not do that, for example, with Bryson, because I've got 8 or 10 Brysons in the showcase. And so when I sold a Bryson out of there, I didn't necessarily go replace it. So I've been very careful to make sure that anybody that's represented in the bins is also represented in the showcase. So I really don't, and I'm trying to think. I don't think I've sold a Colin Morikawa card, even though he has a prominent place in the showcase. One of my prettiest cards in there is a $500, a beautiful card. One of those Upper Deck employee exclusives again. White card signed in blue ink, just a really pretty card for a Morikawa collector. And it's hardly received a look. So I really don't think it's been reflective of inventory. I've sold very little Jack stuff, and Jack Nicklaus has a very prominent place in the showcase because I've got some really cool, really valuable Jack Nicklaus cards that I want to move, that I want to sell. And so yeah, so I've tried to be really careful, making sure the ladies have a nice prominent place in the showcase. I've got about 8 or 10 different ladies in there that have a spot in the showcase, but then they're also in the bins. And I haven't sold a LPGA card. Potentially I'm going to this week sell a Nelly Korda SI rookie that I've got that's graded, but that would be the first of the ladies that have sold if I do. So yeah, I haven't really seen a direct correlation to any of that.
Yeah, interesting. When it comes to the lady golfers, and I mean, absolutely no disrespect when I say this, but you can have equality of opportunity, meaning you put out all those cards in a prominent place in your showcase, but as a shop owner, you can't force equality of outcome and force people
Nope.
to collect LPGA players. The LPGA players that I collect, they all fit within sets, more or less. So
Yeah.
if I'm collecting a Star Ruby set from Metal Universe Champions, of course I'm going to have the Lexi Thompson and etc.
Right.
But I'm not necessarily chasing any. The only exception would be Brooke Henderson. As a Canadian and a very,
Yeah.
very strong golfer, I would consider picking up some of her cards, but even the nicer cards, I'm a fan of the 2009 retro exquisite rookie autograph cards.
Mhm.
It's the replicates of Steph Curry's rookie autograph card.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of those. I've got the Morikawa, I've got the Bryson DeChambeau, and yeah, I would pick up the Brooke Henderson. Um, Although, it's sort of sliding into the set, more or less. It's not a
Yeah.
one-off per se.
Right.
Um, no, I find it fascinating actually talking about the cards with you because, I was planning on taking this conversation a different direction and we probably will get there. But before I move on from the cards themselves,
Sure.
have you picked up any, exciting new pieces for the shop?
Probably the coolest ones from just strictly card that I've picked up have been from one of the Facebook group members that I've done some deals with. I think I've bought from him 2 or 3 times. He actually is local. Reached out to me from the original post way back this summer, and actually just saw him again a couple of weeks ago, and just picked up some really good portfolio stuff from the new portfolio product. A nice Brooke Henderson card, by the way. I've got a huge Brooke Henderson collection, so if you need anything, let me know. I'll make sure you're taken care of. I don't need to make any money off of you for all that you do for me. But probably going to say just the best card specific pickups since it opened have just been the portfolio stuff. Some of the Allure parallels, the different color variations, as well as some signature cards from portfolio. My favorite piece pickup, not card related, has been an Arnold Palmer piece. I already had a 1962 Masters badge. Masters badges have been the biggest seller, hands down by far, of anything in the shop so far. Partly, I did a Facebook group post, as you know, and I'll probably do some more of those posts with some other items. But I had a 1962 Masters badge anyway, that from Arnold Palmer win that I already had, really cool piece. And I bought a huge box of Sports Illustrateds from the 50s, 60s, and 70s from a guy. Can't even remember how he found me. He reached out to me on Facebook Messenger, and I don't remember how we connected, but he said, "Hey, I see you got a golf shop. Are you interested in Sports Illustrateds that are golf related?" And I'm like, "Sure." what do you have? How many do you have? And he's like, I've got like 30 from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Would you give me $100 shipped for all of them? I was like, sure, I'll do that. I figured I'd get a few in there that were pretty good. It was just a huge whale of Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Ben Hogan, the very first Ben Hogan cover. Number I think hole number 4 at the Masters is on the cover with Ben Hogan taking a swing from the 50s. And but in there was the Sports Illustrated from 1962, Arnold Palmer's Masters win. And so I ended up just this week, I framed the Masters badge up with the Sports Illustrated. And I thought it'd be a nice, cool piece if somebody's doing some Christmas or holiday shopping for, their son, their husband, their dad, their granddad, and they happen to be an Arnold Palmer fan. That might be a really cool piece that they could buy him. The cards are the badge and Sports Illustrated are protected in top loaders, so they're not going to be damaged. But a nice, cool piece that's got the Sports Illustrated along with the Masters badge to go with it. That's probably my favorite piece that I've put together. And, we all do. Everybody listen to this that collects, loves those. I bought a box of something. I didn't know what was in it. And then I found all this cool stuff. We've all got those stories. Mm-hmm. So that was a really cool, when I was flipping through there, I'm like, wait, I think that's the Masters that I have the badge for. And sure enough, it was.
Very cool. Are those the actual Sports Illustrated magazines, or are you talking about Sports Illustrated for Kids cards?
The Sports Illustrated magazines from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yep.
And then those Masters badges, you and I were chatting a while ago about some Mike Weir win.
Yep.
Was that 2003 Masters?
That was his 03 Masters. Yep.
Yeah, and it definitely piqued my interest, but being on such a tight budget, I thought of that as something that, if we did a bigger deal, and there's an offset in the value on either side, then, that's something we might be able to throw in. But I had a hard time convincing myself to buy something that's not quite within one of my lanes as it is. But I found it so fascinating that the badge itself. Could you share a little bit about, like, what exactly are those badges? How did you get them? How many did you get? Are they, just badges that an attendee would have to go to the event, or are they actual professional golfers kind of pass to the event?
Yeah, so there's several different types of badges, and there may be more that I'm not even aware of, because some of them can give you access to different places, etc. But generally speaking, the most valuable ones are going to be the I'm going to call them plastic material badges for lack of any other better description. It may not be plastic, but it's a plastic-ish type material that is good for that is good for the week. The Thursday through Sunday, all the tournament play badges. So those are the ones that are the most valuable of them. Again, relative to the golfer that wins, of course, we all know, makes it more valuable, and the significance of it makes it more valuable. And you've got your Hideki Matsuyama year that there were less made because it was COVID year and they didn't let as many people in. So that one, I think I saw a sale of that one. That was 2021, I believe it would have been. That was graded pretty highly. That comped for over $3,000 not long ago, and I did not sadly have one of those. And then you've also got the paper badges that are out there that. They could be practice rounds, or they could be, if somebody's listening to this and maybe doesn't know this, but if you're a PGA professional, you can show up to any golf tournament really, but you can show up to Augusta without any knowledge that you're coming, and you can flash your PGA Pro badge, and they give you a paper ticket that's good for that day, and you walk in and you watch the Masters. And so those are out there. And so I had a mix of the plastic, the whole week tournament badges. I had a mix of some paper ones in there. The source for those, some are ones I had, some ones that I had collected over the years. I've even purchased a few in the last 3 months that I purchased to resell. and from either people, or I purchased a couple from the golf auction that some of us frequent every month. I think the golfauction.com is where that can be found. A great source for comps as well as finding really cool items. And but but the main source for maybe 60 to 70% of those badges was one of our pros here at Nice Play Golf Center. He's been a Masters attendee for about 25 years now. And his number got called about 25 years ago. I think 1999 was his first year, if I'm not mistaken, 99 or 2000. And he doesn't go every year anymore, just age, health, etc. And so he sells them every year, but then he's been asking people, like, hey, I want it back. These have value. Don't keep it. And he just got to a point where he's like, I've been hanging on to these, but I'm not displaying them. Are these worth money? What can you get? What can I sell them for? So I just consigned those for him. Consignment is not something that I plan to really market or do a lot of, but for somebody that's here local that knows me, to where I don't have to go through the legal hassle of paperwork and all that kind of stuff, to where I could literally just say, hey, let me sell these for you. I tried to do it for free. He wouldn't let me. He said, what would you normally get consignment? And I told him the percent. He said, well, let's do that. I trust you. You just sell them and pay me whenever they sell, and whatever you give me, I'll be happy with. And so that's where a lot of those came from. Still got a few of his and a few of mine, but and I've got some. I just sent 5 or 6 off of my own personal collection to get graded. I think it was 6 of them, and 5 of them were Tiger wins. The paper ones have a little less value because they're limited to one day, and they're typically not in as good of a condition. So if you happen to have a paper one that's in phenomenal condition, that could carry a little bit more value. You sit around watching the Masters all day with a paper badge, it tends to get creased and wrinkled and bent out of shape, whereas a plastic one stays in better shape. So there's your Masters badge 101s.
Very, very nice. I appreciate that. Super interesting. Like I said, I'd love to pick one of them up from a Mike Weir win one of these days, but we'll have to wait until a lot of these projects I'm working on get completed. I keep thinking about the cards themselves. I want to ask you a little bit about the business itself, but before I do, you mentioned Portfolio earlier, 2024 Upper Deck Portfolio, obviously released a month or two ago. I think it's one of the coolest sets around. Such a diverse
Agreed.
selection of cards. You mentioned Allure. That's a brand that came from hockey. There's some really cool NHL Allure cards. I love gold. I get a little hesitant talking about cards that I really like because if I inspire others to also like them, it just drives the prices up. But I need to squash that feeling of scarcity because, this is such a niche hobby as it is that, might as well just be honest with everybody. I was thinking about collecting the gold complete set of Allure of all the different golfers. Then until I found out that most of them are actually only autographed. So there's these gold Allure autographs, but of course it has a sticker, which is not ideal. So
Right.
there's probably only 5-ish golfers where they've got the gold parallel without an autograph. And
Mm-hmm.
probably those 5 golfers are not necessarily ones that I would be too fulfilled collecting. So I
Yeah,
might end up passing on that project. And the black Allure parallels just look amazing. I can't believe
they
that
do.
there's such a common parallel, so they're not super rare, but of course that means you can get an amazing looking card for really, really reasonable price.
Mm-hmm.
So those are I mean, I've got a million thoughts on Portfolio itself, but what's kind of your 30 seconds to 1 minute thoughts, I guess, on that exciting set?
Yeah, I agree. I think you said it in the Facebook group or either on our Fondling Cardboard group chat. I think hands down, it's the best golf set that's ever been created. And I love that you get so many potential good looking inserts with it. And it's not Tiger or bust. Like 2003 Tiger, I had some boxes that I sold somebody. He's like, "What am I looking for?" I said, "Tiger. That's it. It's like
Mhm.
Tiger or nothing." Unless you happen to get really lucky on something. So, love Portfolio. I really, really hope that Upper Deck and or Leaf, Panini, somebody. I hope it's Upper Deck. I really hope that we get a 25 product and a 26 and a 27. And I don't know. I don't know how to make it happen in my little world here, but anything I can do to try to help crank the screws on Upper Deck to get us a golf product every year would go a long way for the hobby and continuing to improve it. But hands down, the best product they've created, in my opinion.
Awesome. I love it. All right, I can finally switch over to something you said, gosh, probably 10 or 15 minutes ago. You said your first month in the shop was profitable, and you immediately raised a flag in my mind. Could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, obviously, a business is run with some overhead and things like that, and I think
Yeah.
maybe some of those factors might not, you know, get calculated in with that statement. But what's kind of your big picture, I guess, when you say that?
Yeah. I mean, because it's such a unique setup, I don't have any overhead. I have the overhead in a sense of sure I haven't made my money back from all the things that I purchased to add to my own inventory. Like I could have opened the shop with what I had on my own, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't have enough of some things that I wanted to open shop with. And so yeah, I mean, without going into specific numbers, it has been what I would deem as a profitable month because I probably have made back in 1 month. I've probably gotten back about 20% of my initial overhead of the things that I have purchased to add to the shop. Um, but again, I have no rent. Like if this was a brick and mortar building and I had to pay $2,000 to $3,000 a month to rent the building, then then it might have been a losing month. And then wait, you wanted the lights on? Yeah, now I got a light bill. Oh wait, you wanted a running bathroom? When I don't have all those things. I mean, I
Mm.
have a spot that's free to me to use, and that's already the other business that I own. So yeah, so for me, I knew that I've spent way more money to get this to opening than I would make back in the first month, but I'm on pace. If I do what I did in November, December, January, February for the next 4 months, if I don't spend any more money, which I'm a collector and I'm a golf cart shop owner, I'll spend more money. But if I didn't spend any more money and I did the next 4 months what I did this past month, I would have all my money back from my initial purchases to open the shop.
That's
So
incredible. Wow. Well, congratulations, Jason. It sounds like you've not only had some success in your first month in business, but you've also really enjoyed the process. I can tell by your
I've
enthusiasm.
loved it.
The conversation, I was really intending to go into how the business has been going, and maybe I'll have one or two more questions before we wrap up. But
Sure.
I love that our conversation is really focused in on the cards themselves because that's what this hobby is about. Um, and so, kudos to you for just enjoying the process, having some success. I'm delighted to see where you're at now. Um, and now that you are further along, what advice would you give to other golf enthusiasts that are thinking about opening, whether it's a card shop or a memorabilia shop, brick and mortar, online, whatever, what kind of advice would you have for people? And it's interesting because as you said, you've got a very unique setup. You've got the space and
Yeah.
the only alternative for that space was just collecting junk, or not junk, but you were keeping some inventory in there and piles of things. And
Sure.
sure,
Yeah.
you're using the space way more effectively now. So others probably
Yeah.
don't have that same situation. But I guess
Right.
keeping all that in mind, what kind of advice do you have for others?
Yeah. So I'm going to start that answer with doubling down on something I said at the end of the first episode we recorded. Do it debt free. Uh, because this first month has been more enjoyable and less like not less stressful, no stress. Because if I was here all day for 7 hours and had the shop open and not a single person messaged me or not a single person walked in, which has happened a time or two, um, then I'm not worried about paying the bill. Like it's okay. Like, I mean, I'm glad I've made some sales, but if I would have had to report to you today that I've not made a single sale yet, I still could have enjoyed the process. I still could have enjoyed people, young and old, men, women, all cultures walking into the shop and having a conversation about who their favorite golfer is, whether they spend a dime or not.
Mm,
And that would not be the case if I had a bunch of overhead, which I know is unique. So the average person is going to have some overhead, with this thing. And so I would not recommend going and spending 20, 30, 40, $50,000 in inventory and overhead and renting a space and signing a 2 or 3 year lease and go into debt doing it, because it's just going to rob you. I think my statement I made was, your dream becomes a nightmare really quick. And so it's allowed me to just sit back and enjoy the process of it. Other than that, I think if I didn't have this unique situation, I would have done, and so therefore I would recommend to other people, do a lot more market research than I did before you started, because you want to make sure that you're putting something, and that's no different than any business. If you're thinking of opening a restaurant and you're going to sell burgers and fries, well, you need to make sure within a 5 to 10 mile radius, there's enough people that want to eat burgers and fries for dinner before you open your restaurant, or if you're going to open a sushi place, well, if you open a sushi place, you need to make sure there's enough people within 5 or 10 miles that are going to come eat your sushi. If there's people like me, they're not going to come eat it because I don't eat raw fish, but there's enough people out there that would. So I didn't have to do any market research, because if this thing completely fell on its face and didn't do anything in 1, 3, 5 years, it's still my office at Knight's Play, and it's just a place where I get to house my collection and look at it every day. Just tampons my collections. My collection would have price tags on it, as opposed to sitting at home in a box somewhere where I can't enjoy it. And so I did not do a lot of market research ahead of time, but it might have been, if I was doing this and I had to rent the space out, then I might would have camped out here, or asked the owners of Knight's Play Golf Center, could I do some canvassing of their customers to find out, if I opened something like this, would it be something that they would be interested, would they be a potential customer, type thing, which of course, that would take the owner of the business being okay with that. So again, there's probably ways to do market research with technology too that I'm just not familiar with. So do more market research than I did, because you probably are going to be in a situation where you have a lot more overhead than I did. And and I hope to kind of circle back on some previous comments. I said that there's not necessarily somebody doing what I did that I could reach out to before I did this. I wouldn't mind being that person for somebody else. So if anybody's hearing this that's inspired or motivated to do something like this, whether it's another golf pro that, feels like they could do something like this at their facility, or just somebody that just thinks, man, this is really cool, I wonder if I could do this in my area, reach out to me. I'll be happy to, learn from my successes, learn from my failures, so that you can improve on it. And then I can learn from you too.
Very cool. If I were to try and apply some of the advice that you just shared, um, for somebody who wants to start a business and have that be their sole income source and put all their eggs in one basket, I like to think of, I have an engineering background, I have a sales background. If I would probably be better off starting an engineering firm, or a rep, manufacturer's rep agency, or something like that, which there's a proven market, there's strong likelihood of success. Um, Whereas what you kind of framed is that you already have an established business, and it just so happened to be able to facilitate this hobby project that could be a successful business if you're lucky. If not, then it's sort of your pet project. Now, for those listeners who might be in, I don't know if saying a similar situation as you is the right way to put it, but who might be business owners, or a restaurant, or a cafe, or who knows, like a gaming shop, or a thrift shop, or anything along those lines, where maybe they could reuse some of their space and absorb that overhead that's already being paid for. It's a sunk cost. Maybe people in those kind of scenarios might be able to kind of learn from you and do something similar. Now, the way I kind of divided it into, don't do this as your sole source of income, versus, if this can kind of leach onto your existing business, then
Right.
go for it. Did I articulate that well? Is that really
I,
a message?
yeah, I think so. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the day will come, but I don't know that this necessarily could be somebody's full-time and only income, because I don't know what the percentage is, but what percentage of people in the world collect golf cards and memorabilia? It's kind of like I had a neighbor one time across the street from my house that sold, and this was like 20 years ago. He sold solar panels for a living, and he was always struggling to make ends meet. And I was like, well, you know, like less than 5% of the population has any interest. And part of that population can't put them on their house because of HOA clauses in their neighborhood. So like you have very few people you can actually sell your product to, and you're passionate about this kind of stuff. Why don't you do this on the side? Go get another job, do this on the side. So I think this kind of niche thing is probably something that would not, maybe one day it will be. I'd love to see the day that 5, 10, 20 years from now that, that I get put out of business because 2 miles down the street, there's a 2,000 square foot shop that is golf cards only. And maybe they sell a little baseball and basketball on the side. But no, I think with any job where people are thinking, hey, maybe I want to try this. If you picture like an hourglass, you don't want to quit, you don't want to quit what you're doing that's paying the bills. You kind of want to turn the hourglass over and let the sand fall on the other side. And then when enough sand falls on the other side that you could, quit the business. Maybe that's a way to get it visual for somebody. But, if somebody's making $10,000 a month and they quit a $10,000 a month job to go do something where they cross their fingers and hope that they can make 10, and you make 2, and then you make 1, and then you make 3, well, you're in debt really quickly. So go do that on the side. And when you all of a sudden can't do your full-time job because the side job is taking up too much of your time and you're making $10,000 in the side job, okay, now go quit the other job. Or if you feel like I'm making good money, but man, if I could just quit the other one, I think then go establish the things. Kind of like, again, restaurants. Most restaurants aren't successful because they go open a restaurant, they go open a food truck. And when they have enough of a following, then they might go open a restaurant. I think every business can be a little bit different, but I hope I'm wrong, but I wonder if we'll have a day that somebody could have a golf cart and memorabilia shop and that be the only source of income. Like they're dependent upon that income type thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll have that day that there's enough customers that'd be great for all of us.
Yeah, you'd have to really own the niche, I think, to be successful as your sole income source. And I don't think there'd be room for many people to do it, but that's okay because at the end of the day, we're in this hobby for exactly that, as a hobby, as a way to enjoy
Exactly.
our time on Earth. Um, I maybe we'll wrap up this
Yeah.
conversation. I'll encourage people to go check you out on Instagram, which is _KP Golf Cards. Uh, how can people follow your progress, I guess, other than Instagram, and stay updated on your shop?
Yeah, so right now Instagram is all that I have as far as the social media presence. So you can message me there. My phone number is there as well on the Instagram pages. And I'm always open to phone calls, text messages, and just share my story with people. I've asked people that I've sold things to, and if they don't mind when they get their packages or when they get their stuff and they get home, if they wouldn't mind, follow me on Instagram and post a picture of what they got and give me a shout out so that all their followers then see it. And the aforementioned guy I'd mentioned in South Carolina that's a new collector, one of his buddies reached out to me from him doing just that and said, hey, my buddy bought some stuff from you and told me to follow you. And I want some of the stuff he got. How do I get that? And so just slowly but surely, just growing the presence that way. So right now, just Instagram, because quite frankly, that's all I know how to use. You can comment there, you can message me there, or find my phone number there. I'm always open to phone calls or text messages.
Very nice, Jason. Thank you so much.
meticulous golf card collector